a lot of the critics, I just saw a new one that was taking me on over taking the gates of hell out of context in Matthew 24 as in the days of Noah. When you just do a word study on gates, hell, the grave, Jesus descended before he ascended. When he says he gives us the keys to the kingdom, I think that most people, see, here's the thing, Tom, and you know this, Doug, and Joe and Chris, that I've tried to reiterate so many times over 25 years. Jesus' words are so multidimensional and so succinctly simple, yet so wonderfully complex. That's not an oxymoron. Yet we don't believe the words of Jesus. See, here's the bottom line. I love what the followers of Jesus were in the beginning. They were called the followers of Jesus, followers of his way, before they were called Christians at Antioch, right, Chris?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So now let's talk about the word study you've done on Geese, because I'll tell you this. Now I got to be kinder and gentler tonight. If someone who has no clue of original language challenges somebody like you that has studies it for so long and it is what it is, just as Tom brought up, tell us about the gates, because the point being is that you got 90% of the people out there that don't believe we know what we're talking about, and they're soon to be consumed and destroyed unless the grace of God covers them. Go ahead, Chris. What about the gates?
Well, sure. Well, thanks a lot, Steve. Throughout the Bible, you see all kinds of language about the gates of heaven and things of that nature. The gate is it's a really strong symbol in biblical language, just like the gates of the city, things like that nature. But then you have really gates that sound like things like what we're talking about. We're talking about things like wormholes and interdimensional type of travel. Jacob's dream, some people would call it Jacob's ladder or Jacob's staircase. He sees angels ascending and descending, and many people think that these were the divine council, the representative of the angels who were over the other nations as Jacob was traveling. There's all kinds of different interpretations within Judaism, but this idea of a portal, of this ladder between heaven and earth, between dimensions, is absolutely a biblical idea. And it's also, what was going on when Nimrod was attempting to build the Tower of Babel. And we have an extensive discussion of the Tower of Babel in our book that with some unprecedented information that many of the readers are probably not even familiar with. I know in my research, I was surprised to discover that King Nebuchadnezzar actually tried to rebuild the Tower of Babel before God struck him and cursed him, and he was like an animal, and many people think that Daniel took care of him during that time. But you actually found that the archaeologists uncovered this stele where Nebuchadnezzar was boasting about rebuilding the Tower of Babel, and that was his ambition, that he was going to do it. But another thing the thing that we discovered is we don't really believe that tower, was something that was going to be high enough in that its altitude, would actually allow people to contact the heavens, because, we have buildings that reach as high as into the sky today that would probably make that pale in comparison. So that really wasn't, the ambition. It was a portal. It was to make something that was like a gate that would reach into the heavenly realms, and God absolutely did not want to allow it. Now today, we see multiple types of technology competing to do this sort of thing, and I know that we've talked extensively about what's going on out at CERN and places like that, and we believe that there really could be an effort to undo the Tower of Babel, and I think we're seeing that, just in culture at large, in that everyone's becoming as one. Increasingly, everyone speaks the same language, and we're all connected on the internet. It's really hard to say that what God cursed at Babel has largely been undone, and I think that also points to the lateness of the hour. And how much further will God allow it to go before He intervenes? I just can't see going much further. We have all kinds of bizarre genetic experiments going on. The Chinese are openly boasting now about their abilities to edit the embryo. So pretty soon we're going to have designer children coming along the line if the Lord tarries. I suspect He won't tarry much longer with just the level of the violation of His created order that we're seeing. It's just getting to the point where his offense, his it's just so offensive and blasphemous to God what we're doing to creation that it's hard to imagine it going much further, Steve. It really is.
And
hey, Tom. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. And then after you finish what you're going to say next, I want to come back, basically about the giants and stuff, because this is critical. The gates are related to the fallen angels, but also their progeny, and their progeny were trying to get away from the judgment that the book of Enoch declares was going to come upon the earth. So go ahead, finish what you're saying, and then I want you to jump right into that, if you would.
Yeah, I mean, so I was just going to kind of follow up with something that Chris was saying, was that in addition to the fact that the concept of gates of the earth, that the fact that that is a biblical narrative, and also that the earth is a holding tank, that's talked about a lot in the Scriptures. There's all kinds of stuff in the Scripture we can go into if you want, that describe these dynamic realities inside the surface of the earth, and also even some additional scientific discoveries that have been made. But there is also a supernatural, an esoteric, or a demonic side of this, and this was one of the other things that we were told. In fact, I was contacted by a man whose mother is a member of the Apache tribe, and she actually lives at the base of Mount Graham. And she has had fixed cameras on the mountain. She's been doing this for years. She has they've sent me boxfuls of video, and I've had Joe slowly going through all of these video. And there were a few whoa moments where Joe got a hold of me and he said, Dad, he said, there is some really scary stuff in some of this film. He said that this mountain seems to sometimes just come alive. It's like sprites. It's like spirits that are coming in and out of the mountain itself. And then some of this stuff is spooky. It's got faces. It looks like alien grays. Very scary stuff. Well, anyway, I don't yet have permission to make that stuff public. Joe's watched parts of it. I've watched parts of it. But my point about it was this, is that the people that live in these areas where there are reportedly, here in the United States, where there are reportedly gateways that also opened at the same time they were opening in the Middle East. And that'll kind of go to the question you just asked me, Steve, in a moment about what we learned from Dr. Mose, the third-generation medicine man for the Navajo Nation. But what we were learning is that activity in these areas seems to be increasing kind of dramatically right now. And so that was part of the reason why we sent Chris, took a film crew, and he went to the Sedona area, and, just to get B-roll and to go down there and talk to the people that live in the area that believe that there are portals and gateways. And a huge part of our book wound up being written about the Sedona area, which is kind of the southern end, if you will, of the Anasazi Trail, which is very central to the research that we were doing in the book. But I'll let him tell the story, because when he went down there with a film crew, he didn't just get B-roll; he got more than that.